Yeah, I want
I
it to
don't
be.
swear. I just speak fluent trucker.
Yeah. Well, tried like again. It's just coming from a place of trying to mimic the same thing that we have when we have our groups. Um, you got you got to come to a Thursday night again
It's
because
been a
it's
while,
been
yeah.
a bunch of new guys and it's really it just one of the guys made a comment today about how good it's been. So just I don't know. I now that I've been there doing that for a little while or going there and taking counseling or whatever, it's really I don't know. What do you call it?
Counseling?
Is it counseling?
The I just call it group.
Group. Okay.
Going
Going
to
to
a
group.
meeting, going
Yeah,
to
going to
group.
meeting. Yeah. So, um, but yeah.
Should
So I just
bring this closer like you've got it.
yeah. How's that? Good.
How's my levels? All right, cool.
Alright. But yeah. So you know, just since we're going in that kind of theme, why don't you check in on like you would as if we were
All right, well, I'm a Joe, alcoholic. Today is 179 days, so tomorrow is my 6 month mark.
congratulations.
And thank you. And if you'd have told me 6 months ago that I wasn't going to touch another drop of alcohol, I would say, man, you're drunk. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had my wake up call, pulled my head out of my ass, and I've gone from just drinking all the time to not even wanting to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's life is so different right now between sobriety and part of sobriety was, getting your head right. And I've been dealing with depression my whole life, but I come from country folk where talking to a shrink and all that. What are you getting too good for your raisin?
Yeah.
Do you need a safe space and
The
a blanket?
stigma with it.
They just give it to Jesus. You don't need pills. Turns out, no, some people need pills.
Yeah.
And taking some depression medicine. Been on Prozac for a couple of months, and yeah, I no longer stare at the world through like, well, this fucking sucks glasses. Depression is one of those things that, like, I know I've had relatives like, oh, you just need to cheer up.
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic. Trust
Yeah.
me, I can be plenty fucking cheery. But when your default setting is misery, I was drinking all the time to self medicate just to try to feel better. And you sure in the beginning, you drink for 4 hours. First 3 hours are great. The last 2 hours is bad for everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, I'm Sam. I have 184 days.
Congrats,
So
man.
I got my 6 month chip today. But yeah, it's for me, we talk about the depression and all that. Um, you know, I have never nobody's ever told me I was depressed. They told me I had anxiety, and then I talked to a
Had that too.
psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, "Well, anxiety is depression." I don't know. He's the doctor. I'm not. That's what he said. But um, you know, I didn't realize how good it's been, how good it could be until I was off of drinking.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what for me was you know the like the light bulb for me
Mm-hmm.
that kind of went off. It's just enjoying life, enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Remembering what you did
remembering
yesterday.
waking up and feeling good and yeah,
No hangovers. No
yeah, no hangovers, no
no
headaches.
concerns of do
Yeah.
I need to text somebody and send a preemptive apology? Did
Yeah.
I become
Yeah.
a total dick last night?
Yeah. try to remember what I said last night, so that way, if my wife asks me a question, I will remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what I answered,
Well, yeah,
or
life.
that we talked about it.
Oh
Even,
God, yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, it's been crazy, but on um, on something else, you had mentioned that you have dealt with depression. Did you find that out after the stopping of the drinking, or have you known that?
No, I've known that I had depression problems for a long time. Like all the way back in my 20s, when I was in the army, I was stationed in Hawaii. I'm a California kid. I surf. I should have been happy as shit to be stationed in Hawaii. That lasted a month and a half, and then I was like, "This is so boring. Get me off of this fucking rock. It's
Yeah,
so expensive here. You know what it costs to surf? $2 to the beach
yeah.
in a bus ticket, or a brisk 6 mile jog, which we ran every day in the army. We ran 6 miles, and it was boring because we sang the
The
same
same thing.
stupid cadence, and we ran the same lap. To be in that kind of shape would have been great,
Yeah,
And so they say like, oh, if you exercise, you get the endorphins, you feel better. Sure, if your baseline is better, but
yeah.
when you're dealing with depression, you're already starting down here. If it couldn't kill me, I didn't want to do it in my 20s. Between jumping out of helicopters or riding bulls, just stupid stuff.
So what'd you do in the army?
I was infantry. Like I said, if it couldn't kill me, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you look back now? Do you think that had anything? I mean, obviously, your life today is an accumulation of all your experiences, or at least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, that's true. I think.
But yeah. So you know, how did that shape, your drinking, or do you think it had that big of a hand in it at
I
all?
would say definitely the army had a hand in it. So like, I was a good kid and very strict Christian household. So I didn't like go to parties in high school or do any of that drinking. I first time I ever got drunk, I was in college. Just stayed away. Not too long after. A couple of weeks into college, like let's get drunk, let's try it. But I started drinking regularly when I was in the army. So when you live in the barracks, at least once or twice a week, there's going to be a knock at your door, and somebody with some stripes and a uniform is looking for somebody to do a thankless chore. And so they're going to tell you to, put your uniform back on and go down to the motor pool and grab something, or run over to battalion and pick something up. But the Army has a zero tolerance policy. So if you've had anything to drink, you cannot legally put that uniform on. So
Uh,
if you're over 21, you get off work, there's my I'm not going back to work till morning ticket. And it was infantry, so we were all about teamwork. Well, those come in a unit of 6. You can't break up the team.
yeah,
So if you open up one, well, you better
yeah,
send it down after its buddy. Send the rest of them down. So also, shit, Hawaii's expensive. You didn't have a car. You're stuck on post. Not much else to do. So you drink and you do stupid shit with friends in the barracks.
yeah.
That,
How long did you serve?
3 years. You used
Yeah,
to be able to do a 3-year enlistment.
yeah,
If there was a sweet spot for joining the infantry, it would have been 94 to 97, because there wasn't shit going on in the world in 94. It was like the safest time in the history of the United States military to be in the infantry,
yeah.
because
And
we didn't do shit.
did you enjoy your time in it? I mean,
I did, and
do
I
you
didn't.
regret going into it? I guess is what I'm asking.
No, I have no regrets about being in the service. I wish that I would have picked an MOS that had an MOS for those who aren't used to military terms. That's your job. In the Navy, they call it a rate. In the Army and the Marines, it's MOS, something of service. I can't remember, but basically that's what your job is. Well, my job was blowing shit up. I was mortars, so I worked on a cannon essentially. We could reach out 3 miles and make it die. That was our job with 81 millimeter mortar. there's no real civilian aspect to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, but not a legal civilian aspect to
Doesn't
that.
transition well to job offers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do the army deal, and then I I know you're a musician, so that you're a musician. You also do. I know you have a background in marketing as well,
And comedian.
and comedian. Yeah. So
Been doing comedy about 12 years. Musician. I started playing around with the guitar when I was around 10. I learned 5 or 6 songs, and that got me through later in life. And then I'd say I got a good guitar. I was around 40 when I got my first like good guitar, and started putting time into it and learning more music. And then in the last, let's say 8 or 9 years, I started pushing myself. When I first started learning guitar, I could do the basic chords, but my hands were so small because I was 10. I couldn't do like bar chords or anything, fancy picking. And I
right.
had that in my head. Well, that's as far as I can go with this. But then I started. My wife and I, when you're married, your wife's friend, her husband is your default friend.
Yeah. Of
And
course.
so some old friends of ours, they got married and they had a kid. Well, they don't go out anymore. So we would go over their house on like Friday nights, or at least once or twice a month for game night. Well, he is an amazing bass player, and he also had just a guitar. And one time we were over there, and I was like, "Hey, do you mind?" And I was just messing around with stuff, and that was when I had started actually, taking music from something that I did while shit faced at a party, going, "Let me grab my guitar," and like horrify you guys for a little while I try to get some
They gave you
attention.
that liquid courage to at least do it.
Oh God, yeah, liquid. I used to refer to alcohol as musical lubricant. But so for the first hour, we would go over there. The girls would be fussing with the baby, and so me and him just started. I'd had the six string, and he'd have the bass, and we were just in the dining room or the kitchen, which had pretty good acoustics, and we were just screwing around, and that kind of became a regular thing. And then as the girls stopped being as close, I have no idea what happened there. That's just how women are. You're going to be besties for a while, and then you're not going to talk for 8 years. You're not mad at the other one. You
Yeah.
just
Just
you
lives grow apart. Things
exactly.
things change.
But me and Ryan still started getting together, and at least once a week, just jamming some tunes. Just he's been in bands since he was 16. I mean, dude, at 19 years old, played the Grotto
Oh,
at the
really?
Playboy Mansion. He was an alternate for the LA Philharmonic at 19. He is a classically trained, amazing magician. That's a different type of art form
Yeah.
altogether. A magician is and a musician are similar in like, hey, watch me make all my money disappear.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Same with comedy, right?
oh yeah. Well, no, actually, I made money. Comedy doesn't cost any startup. You just get up there and you bare your soul. Yeah, yeah,
In front of everybody.
exactly. Like we had talked about, like as a musician, we're on stage for up to 3 hours, and 90% of what we're doing is other people's music because that's what they want to hear.
Yeah.
We're kind of a classic bar band. We'll sing everything from Johnny Cash to fucking Nirvana, whatever you want to hear. We're human jukeboxes. But comedy, if I get up there and I do 15 minutes of Richard Pryor, I am the worst hack that has ever talked into a microphone because you can't tell somebody else's jokes.
Yeah.
You got to find your own voice. And so one thing I can tell you is depression and alcoholism. You will find a lot of that in the performing arts, be it musicians or comedians. Most of those guys, because it kind of takes that to want that spotlight.
Well, you're doing it at too, and you're doing it in a bar or you're doing it in a club or.
Oh yeah, it's very cathartic
You know.
to get up there. I had a shitty week, and I'm gonna talk about it to all of these strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about how you got into drinking, and then also when you knew it was going to be, it was kind of an issue.
Well, I was
I
introduced to
guess your
drinking
experience.
before my dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And when I was around 12, he climbed on a bottle and stayed there till he died. He died right about 10 years ago, and he drank himself to death. Like 6 months before he passed away, he turned yellow, like a Simpsons character, and would not see a doctor. I mean, he was drinking with a purpose, and that purpose was to drink until he was dead, and he accomplished that. So I always knew that alcoholism was something that was in my family, it was in my genes, and it was
So you're
something that,
familiar with it?
yes. And my wife and I have been together for 22 years. This November we'll be married for 20 years, and she has always been vocal about if we ever were to split up, it would be because of drinking. Because uh, my dad is not the only one who gets drunk and is the worst kind of fucking asshole. And then the next day wonders why everybody's so mad. And at the time, when I'm drunk and I'm being an asshole, all I want to do is have fun. And everybody else is being too sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was just a joke. Walk it off. But no, you just said something horribly hateful, you asshole.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have your, your emotions are all over the place, and you're you're like on a roller coaster. You're up and down. You're sad and to happy, and that's
And that's where depression comes into it
Yeah.
too, because if you're, like I said, if your default setting is down here at fucking miserable all the time, first couple hours of drunk is great. You're the life of the party. You don't care about anything, but just under the surface of that are all these emotions that, especially as a man,
Yeah.
we don't deal with our emotions.
Yeah.
The emotions is walk it off,
Yeah.
take it, have a beer, have a shot.
Yeah.
We don't. What are you, pussy? We don't want to cry.
Yeah.
And as a comedian, I have to say we have to stop calling people who are less than the peak of manliness pussies. Those things are tough.
Yeah.
You vaginas were designed to literally take a pounding and keep going. So I don't call anybody a pussy. I call them a ball sack.
Yeah.
Because if you want to talk about something that's really touchy,
Sensitive, yeah.
it's supposed to be, the epitome of manliness is that little, that fruit sack there, and touchy,
Yeah.
touchy. So if anybody's being a whiny little bitch, I don't call him a pussy. I call him a nut sack.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's just crazy how the emotions and stuff like that just. I kind of experience the same thing where you're up and down, or you're quick to get really emotional, and that leads to you could be emotional and then get angry.
Anger is the only one you're
Yeah.
allowed to show.
Yeah.
As a man,
Yeah.
it's okay to show anger,
Yeah.
but any sort of anything that's gonna chip away at your armor and show that you are a flesh and blood human being underneath that, nope, you got to put up the anger that you can show.
Yeah.
But as far as any vulnerability, that's blood in the water, and there are sharks everywhere.
Yeah. You talked about your wife, telling you that, you guys, if you guys ever split up, it would be because of that. How is she doing now that you've become sober?
I'd like to say she's happy about it, but there is a transition.
Yeah.
We're in she's in her mid 40s. I'm in my late 40s, and we don't have kids. And we spent the last 8 years taking care of her grandmother, who was old. So we couldn't leave grandma alone for very long. So if we went out, we'd go to a brewery and one of the local brew pubs. And like I said, I've been a musician and a comedian, so I know all the venue
Yeah.
owners in town, so shit, I could drink for free in this town for a month if I didn't have a dime to my name, and people would still welcome me back because I'm an entertaining. And it's not till I'm shit faced that I'm a total asshole. In the beginning, I'm the life of the party, man. That's what's weird. Okay, so have you ever ran into somebody while sober that you met while drunk and have absolutely no memory of?
Uh, I'm sure I have. Yeah. Nothing stands out right now that you're asking me.
I remember one time, this was, I would say '08 or '09, somewhere around in there. I walked into the alley cat downtown,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy came over. Was like, "Holy shit, Joe!" And came and gave me a big hug. And his wife was there, and she's like, "Hey, how have you been?" And I'm like, "I have no idea who the fuck these people are." Apparently, in like 1996, while home on leave, I spent most of my time in the bar, and I had introduced them. I had met them a couple of days apart,
Oh.
and I was at the bar, and I was like, "Hey, I want you to meet a friend of mine." And I ordered a pitcher and got 3 glasses. I filled everybody's glasses up, and told them like, I think you guys would get along, and started a conversation. I put a 10 spot because that's back when $10 would actually
Got you
buy
some.
something at a
Yeah.
bar. I said, I got to go hit the latrine. So if you see the waitress, because they were waitresses back then, fuck, I'm old. I was like, if you see the waitress, get us get us shots. And when I come back, we're gonna have a good night. We're gonna have some fun. So if you see her, you got the next round. I'll be back. And then I left. I left the bar. They never saw me again. But they've in 2008 or 9 or whatever it was, they'd been together for like
Wow.
12, 15 years.
So
They've
you're the
got
only one that left
kids.
that relationship?
Yeah, I had met them that way. Like I said, I'm the life of the bar. I will stand up on the bar and lead the bar in an Irish drinking song.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're
The
a matchmaker.
first couple hours of drinking.
Yeah.
The last couple hours of drinking, I will slap your grandma in a headlock for talking shit about the Raiders, and I don't even watch football. Just looking for a reason to get myself into trouble because there's it's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of completely opposite of what you went out and you drank a lot. I'm sure you drink at home too, but
Like my partying was out. My alcoholism that was at home
was it?
in the garage,
Yeah.
especially during COVID. Like that's when I realized like I'm doing this too much.
Yeah.
It was 13 years between the last time I got shit faced and was a total asshole to everybody, because 13 years ago I was drunk enough to be that guy, but sober enough that I remembered it the next day, and I was like, I see what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh fuck, I'm my dad. When I'm really drunk, I am that asshole, and so I made sure like when we went out, I I would be the driver, so I would only drink a couple. And then if you're performing, you can't get shit faced on stage. If you do, you're only as good as your last gig. So if you get up there, you're shit faced, and you can't remember the punchlines to your jokes or the words to the song that you're trying to sing, you're not getting another gig.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so I would go, and I would stay sober until after the gig, and then I would stick around and drink all the money I just made. But I would also, like I'm buying you and you and you everybody around. I'm like I was that kind of fun guy. And then I would get home, and my wife would go to bed, and I was an insomniac because that goes hand in hand with depression. And then I would just drink until I ran out of booze, or it's less than a quarter mile to a liquor store from my house, and that's open late. So rather than get a DUI, I would just stagger my
Yeah.
ass down there and you're doing that beer math. I'm sure
Yeah.
you're familiar with it, where you're looking at the clock, you're looking at the fridge. How
Yeah.
do I need to just go get?
Do I have enough?
Yeah, am I going to have something there in the morning for when I wake up?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I don't have to do beer math anymore.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my dog that you hear
Oh,
coming to the door.
I don't even hear a dog.
Yeah. No. You should probably leave her, Anthony. She might bite. Oh, okay.
That's
I don't know if that'll help, but yeah, close them. But yeah, I drank it secluded.
yeah. I did
Try to hide
my
it.
serious drinking by
No,
myself.
yeah. Everything was pre-game. Everything was let's try to get. You know.
And deep down, like if you're doing it by yourself in a darkened room when nobody, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
You're fucking up. But
Yeah.
I just need one more beer and then maybe I'll sleep.
Yeah.
One more beer and then maybe I'll be able to relax.
It's always just one more, and then you wake up in the morning. Oh, I'll just have, a little bit, or I'll just have, whatever I have left, and or, it just never ending. It just never stops being enough, and you don't know. You don't realize it when you're in it. It takes you to get sober, to go through like some type of detox or something,
Yeah.
and then really,
Tangle with the cops. That's it. That did it for me.
yeah. Tell us about that.
I'd rather not.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
at the
You don't have to.
I'm gonna leave out the details to protect the guilty, which is me.
Yeah,
So after several years of COVID and being locked up, and so like I said, we had my wife's grandma passed away earlier this year at 93. Well, when COVID started, she was 90 with a bad heart and diabetes
Yeah.
and all of the comorbidities that makes us on top of being 90. Like
Yeah.
you don't need a reason to die past 90.
Yeah.
You're just waiting
Sneeze,
for it to
yeah.
happen. You pass away from an ice cream headache.
yeah,
So like we had to take COVID super serious. And my wife had already left her job at the school that she was working at so district years ago. But when grandma started getting older, and so I was working, and during COVID I was working from home. I worked for the city. I was doing marketing, and you can do that from anywhere as long as you got your internet connection. So I was working at home, and I love my family. But everybody remembers COVID. You're stuck 24/7 with someone you deeply love. You can still love them, but you might want to put their head under. Not till the bubbles stop. I'm not talking about murder, but you definitely dunk their head underwater.
well, they're gonna do something that bothers you.
Oh yeah, and I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were times my wife could just hear me breathe and going, "That motherfucker."
Wish you would go back to work.
That's love.
Yeah,
But the longer I stayed in that depressed state and inside the walls of my house, so since I pre-COVID I had a band, all of my music stuff was in the garage, along with a beer fridge. And during COVID, I put a full bar in my garage because sometime I'd say about 6-8 months into COVID, booze got cheap. Like everything else was cheap because nobody was buying anything. And I don't remember what store it was, but it was like the mixers. It was like a bar starter set, and everything was $5. So bottle of Cuervo, $5. Fuck yeah. And I had it in a converted toolbox that looked snazzy.
yeah,
And I think there were 11 bottles of booze in there. 9 of them were unopened. But the rum and the coffee stuff you put in your coffee,
Bailey's.
man, that I was going through that stuff like crazy.
Yeah,
All the schnapps and stuff, it was dusty. Those bottles weren't even opened.
yeah,
That wasn't what I was going for. That's party booze for someday after COVID. We'll have friends over, and then I'll have all the stuff for entertainment. But I was going through one of them handles rum, like clockwork, on top of sorry, which like just have a 12-pack in the fridge for band night. So I would have on Tuesdays band rehearsal, we drank, and then on Thursdays, this was pre-COVID, I have friends who are musicians who aren't in a band, and so we would just do jam night at my house, and we would really go through some beer on that one. And so I always had like an extra 18-pack next to the beer fridge. So as you take one out, you put one in. So that well never ran dry at first.
Yeah.
And then COVID, and then you fast forward to beer math. What time is it? It's 11:59. If I got 5 in there, I'm gonna drink those 5 before 1 o'clock for sure. I may as well, run to the store. My wife's asleep, so she's not gonna know I'm running down to the store. I
Yeah,
can
like
quietly,
she doesn't ever wake up for anything.
put the dog in the backyard so he don't bark when you come back in the
Yeah.
house, and that key touch. Yeah, if you're planning it out, you're fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, like, so you would ask about is my wife happier that I'm sober? I think everybody who knows me is happier that I'm sober. My wife definitely is. But there's also years of eroding
Yeah.
trust.
You
Now-
know, I think in our group we heard a little bit about that today. Not to bring up stories from group, but we I've experienced it and talked about it. We go into recovery. We have that gift of desperation, like, oh man, we really need to stop. So we go through the process. We're stopping, and we want a pat in the back from everybody else around us, who we put,
Through hell.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Needlessly.
abused and didn't, just
Take
was-
it for granted. And,
yeah, all that stuff, and it's just, and then we get a month, where we get that first, 30-day chip, and we're like, yeah,
You're like, look at me, I'm doing good.
yeah, I'm doing good.
That 30 days, you start to feel better.
Yeah,
I'd lost about 10 pounds.
yeah,
So when I was drinking, especially at the end when I was drinking all the time, my blood pressure was through the
Same.
roof. I had heartburn all the
Same.
time, or my doctor called it gastritis. So I was taking 3 different medications for that, and that would have me up all night. Well, stop drinking fucking whiskey, and you won't have that hole burning through your esophagus and your stomach. I know that now.
yeah,
I kind of knew that then, but I didn't want to stop.
yeah.
I'd always been like, oh, I could stop drinking if I wanted to. And that's absolutely
yeah.
true. It was absolutely true. I just never wanted to
Yeah.
before.
Never
Now that I finally got to the point where I wanted to stop drinking, I haven't touched a drop in 6
So
months.
even did you have any experiences with any other drug?
I've smoked weed before, but weed
But
wasn't
not at
my-
this level.
No, not alcohol was my go-to for misery.
Yeah,
So and like I said, drinking in the middle of the night in the garage by myself, and as long as I'm holding a guitar, then I'm not out here for the beer. I just happen to be drinking while I'm playing music, which was a total shit show, bullshit lie things that we tell ourselves.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like my wife was upset when I finally stopped drinking. I remember her being on the brink of tears, in both anger and sadness, saying, you lied to me for years. And I wasn't one of those, drunks that are out in the, sneaking it.
yeah,
I never hid it. I don't have kids. I didn't have a reason to hide it.
Yeah.
If she asked me if I was drinking, the answer was always yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't lie about it.
yeah,
And she'd say how much, and I would never lie about it. I would just kind of sidestep that shit like
yeah,
a presidential somebody trying to get elected.
yeah,
You ask me about
That's
how
one of
much
them
I
tough
was
questions.
drinking, and I'll tell you about the project I'm going to finish next week
Yeah.
to make you happy.
yeah,
But I wasn't lying to her. I was lying to myself
yeah,
when I'd say, no, I'm not an alcoholic. And that's what I told her. I was like, I wasn't lying to you for years. I was lying to myself. You were collateral damage. You were in the room while I was lying to myself. But I was telling myself I don't have a drinking problem. I
Yeah.
drink, I fall down, I get up the next morning and do it again, no problem.
yeah. It's just a brutal cycle, and then and you struggle. I don't have a desire to go back to drink. Hardly ever. Every now and then, I'll be driving and I'll be comfortable and say, I would, nice bottle with, a couple of sips.
The only time I really the first time since I quit drinking, it was, I'd say, just under a month in. The first time that I wanted, like, just reflexively was like beer.
Yeah.
I was alone in the house for the first time in like 4 years. My wife was out with friends. Grandma had passed away. All of the family that came to stay after she had passed was home, and it was just me in the house. And I was like, I'm gonna practice some music, and that's normally what I would do. Is on the rare occasion that I was home by myself, I'd have my guitar, crack a beer, be playing. When that beer would be finished, I would grab another one, and next thing I know, my calluses are thickening, and I'm shit faced, and there's like empty beer cans all over the garage. And so that first time I was by myself, just practicing some tunes, just grabbed my guitar and started playing. Like my mouth, like Pavlov's dog, it may as well have been bells ringing. I was like, I want a beer.
Yeah.
And I immediately, smacked myself in the back of the head, like, I'm in recovery. I don't want to. I don't, what? And I felt bad about that, but it was just, I had trained myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is what I'm doing, there's going to be a beer with me. And then the time that I most wanted to drink was my first gig after getting clean. I haven't sang in front of people dead sober since choir in school. I mean, I'm karaoke king, baby. I'm having a shot and a drink, and I'm that guy that goes up there with the drink.
Yeah.
And so while it's doing the musical, I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to play air guitar, but in between verses, chugga, chugga, chugga. Like, can I finish this beer before I finish the song? So it was really weird, and I can't remember who it was. Somebody at the group said, so you're planning for failure, and that stuck.
Yeah.
Like right in the heart, and I was like, "Yeah, I am," because I was like, "Yeah, I'll be okay. I can do it sober." But in the back of my head, it's like, well, I know all I have to do when you're performing, especially in a bar.
Yeah.
Like the first time, my thought was like the danger zone would be after, because people will bring you a beer while you're up there. Or you get off stage and somebody says, "Man, that was great. What you drinking?"
Yeah.
And you can drink for free. And if you don't, well, I just made some money, and I'll usually drink that.
Yeah.
So I was worried about that. But the week leading up to the first gig there, I was like, well, I guess if I get too nervous, all I got to do is into the microphone, look at the crowd, and go, "I'm mighty thirsty up here." Somebody will bring me a beer and a shot like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got Plan B in my pocket. And I mentioned that. I can't remember his name now. He's not even, I haven't seen the guy in months. He started about the same time. I wonder what happened to. Anyways, he was like, so you're planning for failure.
Yeah.
And I was like, son of a bitch, he's right. I am. I was leaving the door open to the possibility. And at the time I was like, I got it. I got it wired for sound. Worst case scenario I can do. Yeah, that is the worst case scenario, you dumbass.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. For us, it is.
Yeah.
For us, it is.
So, like I said, for stuff to do, my wife and I, we like to go out. I'm friends with at least half the bands in Bakersfield, because that's what we do. We'll go out. We'll watch a Dodgers game and have a couple of craft beers, or we'll go see live band or live music. And if there's one band on stage and one band, we're gonna know both bands. We're just sitting there, hanging out with the bands. And the bands are a hearty drinking group. We really are. Incoming spam. I don't know who you are. I'm on a podcast. Quit. It's my public follows me.
Yeah, there you go.
But I usually wasn't getting shit-faced when we did that. Just have a couple of beers because, like I said, it had been 13 years since I'd been a drunken fucking mess.
Yeah.
But the only way to prevent myself from becoming that drunken asshole of a mess is to just stay away from it. Like, I wish I could just have a beer. After I leave here, I'm going to go home, take a shower, put on Lederhosen, and it's Timberfest. And again, so the Appletons are playing. Those are friends of mine. And they put out a really good Oktoberfest beer over at Timber. I love it. I
Yeah.
can't have it. I'm gonna be wearing the lederhosen and the fedora and the boots and the whole schmoigel. I just can't have the beer. And well, part of me is like, man, I wish I could just have one beer. It's like, well, if you could just drink one beer, you asshole, you wouldn't have a problem.
Right.
I can't drink just one beer.
No. Yeah. How? Just to revert back on regards to your depression, how is it now?
With the Prozac, so it's doing better. Like,
Good.
trying to think of the best way to describe it. So anxiety, you talked about anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I have anxiety too, and I've taken pills for anxiety, never for depression. So for anxiety, I always feel like I'm 10 minutes late for something important, like a job interview or
Right.
something. Anxiety, I feel more like, what's the fucking point? Or no, depression is more like, what's
Yeah.
the point?
What's
So
the
it's the
point?
double whammy. Oh, I'm running late. I gotta go. I gotta go. What's the point? And so you you wake up on Saturday and you know you got to cut the lawn, and you're just like, it's just gonna grow again. You know, maybe we should just stop watering it. We're in a drought. You know, so you feel bad about that. So it's that double barrel of depression and anxiety. One makes you feel like you're missing something and you got to be doing
Yeah.
it, and the other makes you feel like, why? And so I don't have, I'm not staring into that double barrel anymore, because I did, like, you're supposed to do, and I addressed it. Mental health is actual health.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's probably the biggest game changer for me. I this last you know how I got my 6 months. I got into told my wife I was still drinking, and they went and dropped me off at the Bakersfield Behavioral Hospital, and in there I got to see a psychiatrist and did my detox or whatever. They watched me and all that, but it was completely, you know, mental health. The fact that we don't treat that the way that we treat our regular health. The mind is part of our body, and yet we neglect it.
Well,
Not just
we don't even treat our regular health great in this country.
oh
Like,
yeah, that's true.
shit.
Yeah.
Why do I have to have separate for optical and dental? That's part of my body. It's
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
why isn't that part
That's
of
like
healthcare?
that's like yeah. I guess you're right. I guess it's like saying if you got to go see the foot doctor, you have to have foot insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
Insurance is a scam, anyways. They only exist to pay for themselves.
Yeah.
I remember, like, my grandma talk about, like, I don't know why insurance is so much. Like, years ago, Grandpa used to ride a motorcycle. He got in a motorcycle accident, slightly older than I am now, and was in the hospital for weeks. And he shattered a bone. So I mean, he was and he was a painter. He's a tradesman. So he, like, 3 months, no work at all, and spent weeks in the hospital, and they barely paid anything. And they didn't have insurance. It was just cheaper
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah. It's just it's not something that you use every day, and then when you do use it,
Insurance
they
is a
can't-
monthly
yeah.
bet that you make that
Yeah.
says shit's going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah. It's planning for failure.
It really, okay, now I'm not. So part of my sobriety is now I can't have insurance.
There you go. Your wife, I think, would say otherwise.
Well, and now she's the one with insurance. It's
Yeah.
it's weird. There's been a reversal of roles. So the entirety of our marriage, my job's always been the one that's had insurance.
Yeah.
And since I'm an alcoholic and I fucked up a good job that had a pension, and I no longer have that, I had the opportunity to get clean while on that insurance, and I fucked off and fucked up so much while being a drunken asshole that keeping that job wasn't an option. But in hindsight, that job was half the reason I was drinking. It wasn't a good fit. It's a good job for somebody. It wasn't
Yeah.
for me. It's
Yeah.
high stress and nonstop. And so my job was, I don't know if I should, Bakersfield for tourism.
Yeah.
think about the stress level. And every time Bakersfield's in the news, it's never like, it's the _1 city for puppies in America. You know, employment and free hugs are way up. No, anytime Bakersfield makes the news, I'm like, stop making my job harder. We're #1 for car thefts and
I never
DUIs.
thought about it. I never thought about that.
My
Yeah,
whole job was, bring your kids. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Think about how stressful that is. You would drink too.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, that's not has great things.
It does.
And I no longer am paid to say those things, so let somebody else do it. But there are good things about
Yeah.
And it's no longer my job to have to change the conversation anytime somebody talks about, you know, how come we have more bars than schools? It's like, well, did you know that our hospitals are actually cutting edge? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to change that conversation. You're like, yeah, we do have a lot more bars than schools. I was in most of them.
Yeah.
A lot.
You weren't in most schools.
No. No, I got it. Unless there's booze there, I had no reason to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did some college too, or no?
Yeah, well, I went to a trade school
Oh, yeah.
because when I started out as a graphic designer or a graphic artist, graphic arts was still a trade. Photography. I spent so much time in the darkroom, wind and develop my own film. Like that was part of graphic design. And they call it copy and paste. You know, when you're on your computer and you hear the term paste up.
Yeah.
It used to be so if you were doing an ad, you would actually go to this machine and you would do a typeset, which kind of worked like HTML nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And you would tell the computer what size you want your font, and you know it was kind of coding on the back end.
Right.
And then it would actually print that, or not print that, it would shoot that onto photographic paper. That you would then take that drum out, you would go into a dark room, and you would develop that. And then you would run it through a waxer that would put wax on the back of it, cut out the words and any images that you wanted, literally cut them out with an X-Acto blade. And it's got sticky stuff on the back of it from the waxer, and you would draw your box, whatever size the ad was going to be, and you would literally cut and paste it on there, and you'd move it around until it looked good. You still do the same thing. It's just all digital now, and you don't have to smell like developer and fixer all the time. So it was a lot more labor intensive up till the mid 90s. I remember when I was in college, I wrote an editorial for the college newspaper about why the computer is our friend, and because a lot of people were worried about it. This is going to take jobs. And I was like, computer is never going to replace the creative mind. Well, that's true, but it is going to replace the creative hands.
Yeah.
They're not going to hire you to draw something if for $50 they can get 1 million pieces of clip art off of a CD drive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it honestly, when I started at the newspaper, I was an artist there for 13 years. There were 15 artists working 2 shifts when I started. Right now, there is 1 graphic artist at the newspaper.
Really?
Mm-hmm. There's Debbie. She's an old friend of mine. She's the last one standing.
Wow.
And so as computers developed and, you know, you could, yeah, it's not just, you know, pre-made clip art now. You could find pre-made layouts. So you got a salesperson who doesn't know dick about design is turning in a fully fledged layout that, you know, so now a computer can do those jobs. So anybody that went to college in 1993, I fucking lied to you.
I'm sorry.
I was 100% dead wrong. I thought I was right. I was not.
Yeah.
That's a phrase that was, if that'll be my next tattoo. I
There you
thought
go.
I was right. I was not.
Yeah, that held up pretty good, huh?
Yeah. This was part of my sobriety. I don't know if you could see this on the camera there. So this is actually my dad's old Martin guitar. But as I had mentioned in group before I even went and did this tattoo, and again, it goes back to depression and anxiety when you always feel like you're 10 minutes late for something.
Yeah.
I would say 90% of the mistakes that I made, especially the big ones, either vocationally or personally, had to do with anxiety because I felt like I was in a hurry and I needed to get this done right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, gotta go.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
You sent an email, but you
Yeah.
didn't spell check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just always like that. Oh, this is, everything was blown up, into to an issue. Everything was like that. And now, for me, anyways, things have slowed down.
Yeah.
Things have slowed down. It just, um, I can't fix the world's problems. I'm not going to. Even if I wanted to, I can't. And so
Like we talk about in group.
your
Whatever's in
square,
your square.
yeah, your
That's
border,
what you have effect on.
right? Yeah, that was a game changer for me, man. When he talked about that, and they kind of harped on it,
And I've heard shit like that my whole life.
but never.
That was somebody
Yeah.
else's philosophy.
Yeah,
Now that I'm sober, I understand it.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. It's everybody has like their different. So how do I explain it? So like for everybody has their different rock bottoms, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, why did things get more clear for me now as opposed to when I went through it two or three other times prior to this? Why did
You weren't
things
ready.
Yeah, and it just, and some people it takes, you see, being in these groups, you meet people who,
Their fifth time through the program.
fifth time through the program, or just, the first time and they're superstars, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I don't know.
Well,
That
if you-
rock bottom for everybody's completely different.
I would say the if there's a key to sobriety, it is support.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard about. There was a study done with mice where like they gave them a little feeder that had like heroin in it, and so if you just put them in there by themselves, they're going to the heroin. They're not going to the water. They're lonely. This feels better than just being alone, so they constantly go to it until they die.
Yeah.
But if you put them in a little mouse city or a rat city where they've got friends, almost nobody touches the heroin. It's still in there. It's still an option. But if you have a chance to be with others, social creatures,
Yeah.
if you don't feel isolated and alone, then you're not going to drift towards that naturally for that release, for that I feel like shit, I need to feel something.
Yeah.
And so you keep going back to that.
That makes sense because being that
if
this
you-
was the first time I went to a group. I had tried other groups, but it was during COVID, and it was all over the Skype or whatever, or one of those video
Telehealth.
type stuff. So I just it didn't it's way different being there with people. It's like with everything. It just the context of the people, because every time somebody talks, it's like it is. You hear your story, a little bit of your story, in everybody's experience, and so to hear that coming out of somebody else's mouth that they experienced that same thing that you did is pretty neat.
You're like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only does the support, I will 100% credit my strength to stay sober, because there have been shitty days where I'm like, man, I could just say fuck this and get a bottle.
Yeah.
And again, I absolutely love beer. Not just to the drunk. I love beer. I love the taste of it, the effervescence. I could describe a good hearty stout right now that would make us both go to the bar.
Don't do that.
I'm not going to. I'm not even. I'm already like, shut up, that little brain in my like. Why did you even bring that up? With hints of coffee to it. Great change. Damn you.
Yeah.
It's called Conference Call. It's a wonderful beer.
Yeah.
I can't have it.
Yeah.
I would like to be able to just drink one.
Yeah.
But if I could just drink one, I wouldn't know you because I wouldn't have. If you can drink just one, hell, if you could be a happy drunk, you probably don't have the problems that people that we know in our group have.
Yeah.
And there were, like I said, there were shitty days where I was like, man, I wish I could have one, and just one wouldn't hurt. And like I don't have some of the problems that a lot of the people there do. When we first started going,
Yeah.
I signed up for this to keep my job because it's a union thing, and if you get in trouble, well, as long as you call up HR or the boss and say I have a problem, they can't fire you. You have to go to rehab. So I'll admit this. When I first signed up for it, it was an attempt to keep my job. I was like, I know I could stay sober for 90 days. I used to, like, when I was in the Army, you could tell the real alcoholics because when you're packing for the field, those are the guys that are going to, pour out scope and try to put mouthwash with some rumble mints in it. Oh, it smells like peppermint. Motherfucker, you're drinking in the tent. We all know it. You see those guys, you're like, that's an alcoholic. I just like to have a good time. And so I went in there at first like, well, at least I'm not these sad assholes. And then I see people nodding when I'm talking. And I'm like, oh, shit. The guy over there is looking at me going, well, at least I'm not this asshole.
Yeah. Now you're the guy.
And there were those shitty days where I was like, man, I wish I could just have a beer.
Yeah.
And there's those guys that come in, or women, I don't want to be sexist. There's the people in those groups who are struggling harder than I am.
Yeah.
And they come in and they're constantly resetting their clocks.
Yeah.
Their day counter is always at 14. And, there's...
You're not ready till you're ready.
I guess I won't use names, but there's some guys that were in, like, I guess you could say the same class, right about the same amount of time as I've got sober. I didn't want to have to go in there and look at you and say, I'm Joe, alcoholic, day 2. Because I was like, if Sam could do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that,
and that helped.
Yeah, it did, because on those rough days when nothing else helped, at least you did it out of spite.
Exactly.
And I think you're the one who told me that.
Yeah, sober out of spite. There were days that I was sober out of spite.
Yeah.
Or, I'm a competitive person.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, shit, I'm not going back to day 1 if he's on day 87. Fuck that.
Yeah. But that is not, that's okay, I guess, for an hour or two or even a day or two, but that's not going to keep you sober. At least the things that I have seen hasn't. That never kept me sober. I could stop drinking for a day.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the different thing between stopping drinking and a treatment program.
Right.
Because, I had to talk to a shrink.
Yeah.
Something that I've avoided my whole life. Because they're going to tell me I got problems. I know I got problems. That's why I'm drinking.
Yeah.
But addressing those problems, I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
That, and when cops have body cam footage. And so unlike everybody else, I have seen me at my worst. Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Body cam footage from the cop where I'm just a fucking mess.
Yeah.
And I got drunk, really drunk in a hotel in Arizona while I was on a work trip. Got there the day before the conference. And so usually when I go on a work trip, I take my guitar with me because that keeps me out of the hotel bar where I will easily spend $300 and not even drinking all of it. About the 5th or 6th round, I'm buying a round for it. I don't have a card that the company reimburses me with. I'm just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I would usually get me a bottle, and there's usually a mixer when you're at an expo or something.
Right.
There's a mixer in the evening.
Yeah.
And that's done by 7. And so you suck up all the free booze you can at that. And then I would quietly go to my room and I would just do, finger pick, and I wouldn't use a pick. So that way I'm not disturbing the people. I'm not that kind of asshole. And I would have my booze, but I would hit a Rite Aid or something.
You're not deliberate about it.
Oh, absolutely deliberate. I would tell the Uber guy stop on the way in and hit a
Oh
liquor
no, I
store.
was talking about being an asshole.
Oh no,
To
that was always
people.
accidental.
Yeah,
And since I never felt like I was being an asshole on purpose, I would excuse it to myself,
yeah.
which is the wrong way to
I'm
go.
not this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing like he's doing.
Oh, that was a misunderstanding.
Yeah,
I was just having a good time.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was a joke, and you guys didn't get it.
yeah,
Oh, it was a horrible joke. As a comedian, I could tell you that not all jokes are good.
yeah,
And Drunk Joe's idea of a joke was not usually funny.
yeah,
Was to me, which is even worse when you're the only one laughing after saying something horrible to a friend.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you just get yourself caught up in all kinds of bad situations. How are you doing? Any other group outside of?
No, I haven't. I've been invited to them,
Yeah.
but I haven't done any AA or any of that. Still spending a lot of time alone. So my wife now has a job that has insurance, and rather than going back into sales or marketing, like I said, I
Right.
purposely went to school to be a designer. It's what I'm good at. I've got a wall's worth of awards from my time as a designer. I'm good at it. I
Yeah.
love the work, and I do good work. And so rather than going back into something that pays a little more or has insurance, I don't have to take a shit sucking job that has insurance because my wife has a school job, so she
Yeah.
has insurance. So, like in the last month, I've done a couple of logos and a brochure. As I get more into it, I'll work will pick up. Right now, I'm not making very much money at all, but
Yeah.
I'm I'm getting back out there. I'm getting into doing it. Thankfully, I'm not a single person, so we inherited that house when Grandma passed away, so
Yeah.
I don't have a mortgage or rent,
Yeah.
and my wife's job covers the house bills, so we're
Yeah.
we're not hurting for funds right now. It's a way different ball game when you're on the bottom and you're struggling.
Yeah. That's that would get me early on with some of the other guys there. 'Cause, guys and gals, but um, because you meet all kinds of different people in the programs, and
Well, a lot of people, especially if they got a decent job, I got 90 days paid
right.
time off,
Yeah.
temporary disability to get clean.
Yeah.
And there were other people who were in the same situation. They're bouncing off the fucking walls
Yeah.
for 90 days with nothing to do. I've had a job since I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I've never been off of work this long. 6 months. I haven't
Yeah.
been working in 6 months. Uh, been remodeling the house since it's our house now. It definitely looked like a 93-year-old woman's home, and so I've done painting and flooring and electrical work and plumbing work, and so I've definitely stayed busy during that time. If I was just sitting there, I'd probably still be drinking.
Yeah. Did you finish up on your home? Or are you about done on everything that
Almost,
you want to do?
almost done. Yeah.
Yeah. You can only do so much, and then.
Oh no, there's always something else. You're a homeowner.
Yeah.
When you think you're done, that's when something's gonna leak.
Yeah, but you can only do so much with what limits you is your limitations or what you're capable of. I don't know how to do tile. I don't know how to do any of that. So even if I wanted to,
You
I
too,
could.
baby. You can learn anything.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so
I had time and the money for supplies, not the money for a contractor, so I figured it out.
yeah, yeah. I've done that a few times. I've done that.
I can tell you
quite a
the
bit.
last room that I did, that floor looks way better than the first room I did
I
because
bet.
you learn along the way.
Yeah,
I got about 900 square feet of practice
yeah,
by the time I put down the last one.
yeah. Speaking of that, this being my first podcast and all, hosting or even doing, I hope that this comes out okay. We'll see, but I just
If it doesn't turn out, it has nothing to do with you and me sitting here in the chair and everything to do with your off-screen producer.
yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
if there's always somebody else you can pass the blame to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. But are you talking about borders? We talked about that a little bit uh, and what we mean by that is staying within
In your square.
things that we can control, right? You know, do you how do you handle your stressors on things that affect you but you can't control? So, for instance, you're not working right now. You've done some things. You don't know. You're trying to get back into design, is what I'm gathering. So, what? How are you? Because for me, I was off for a little bit. I quit my job, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to survive. But it was not. It wasn't 6 months though. But still, it got to where I just was like, man, I'm not. I felt like I I felt like I wasn't doing. It just got to you. It got to me. Where it bothered me that because like you said, you worked your whole adult life. I've worked my whole adult life. You worked since, my dad owned shops, so
My dad too
I,
was a welding shop since I was
yeah,
10 years old. I'd spend my weekends,
yeah, same thing, same type of thing. I'd go in and granted, when you're 12, you're not really working a full day's worth of work. You're just, probably getting in the way more
Man,
than.
you're lucky. My dad had my ass like,
Yeah. Well, no, I was working, but I was probably getting in the way of actual production than
oh yeah,
more
I'm
so than
I'm sure his
than
job would have been way faster if he
way
did not
easier.
have
Yeah.
two little boys in the way because it was me
Yeah.
and my brother.
Yeah. So, with working all the time and and that role change, how did that affect you? How does that affect you now, and how does it affect your, how do you deal with that? Something like that.
By remodeling my entire house. if if I didn't have all the stuff to do around the house, I would have either started drinking or just gone off the deep end, and they'd have found me naked running down the freeway, dead sober, just talking about they're watching me.
Yeah.
I probably would have lost my shit.
Yeah.
Staying busy is the thing that's helped me. And on top of that, my wife, her support and
Yeah.
encouragement, and then in addition to that, our group.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's.
look forward to. I hang on that next group
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
checking in. That's
Yeah.
why this was when you told me the name of it. I was like, not highly creative, but effective because
Yeah.
it is. It's a check-in,
Yeah.
and I not only to talk about the bullshit that I'm up to is hearing your story. What's Sam been up to this
Yeah.
week? How's
Yeah.
he doing? How
Yeah.
and you actually become invested in that
Yeah.
and
Yeah. The guys sometimes, or the group, they some of the guys will sometimes play tricks, and they'll say, oh, I have, I'm such and such, and I have a couple of guys have done it to me, where they've said, oh, and I have 102 days, and they'll say it like that, and so you hear one at first, and you're
mm-hmm.
like my heart's dropped.
You're like,
I was
oh man, well you could have called me.
Yeah,
Call me.
call me. Yeah, you just go. Just because you're pulling for everybody. You see the devastation that drinking and that type of lifestyle did to your life. The
We had someone today that was tearing up in their check-in,
yeah,
and I just wanted to go, come here,
yeah,
hug it out.
yeah. And it becomes like that. It is. It's for me. I go to church, but th- that there, the fellowship of 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 us, especially a men's group, when we do, when it's just us men, and it it really it's really helpful. You really see, um, I don't know, you just see things and you're able to relate. That's probably the biggest thing. And then two,
Mm-hmm.
we're able to, you know, have fun and joke around like like well because there aren't any women there,
Right.
and you're not as closed off, but it it's it's just cool seeing guys like you're yourself.
You don't want to say it's
You
cool to
came
see a
in a
guy
week.
cry, but
Yeah,
you,
yeah, that yeah. I mean, uh, I won't say his name, but what's his name? Still, I haven't seen him cry yet. I guess they're trying to get him to cry. You'll know who I'm talking about. I'll tell you afterwards. Um, but yeah, seeing we go from one extreme of a guy crying, and then the next guy's talking about how great things are going for him, and then the next guy's talking about how it just
in a custody battle for his
yeah,
kids. Yeah.
yeah. It's just it hits all areas, all effects, and this disease is definitely not um, picking on anybody. It just it's wide and rampant amongst. Doesn't matter, your where you come from, who you are, what you did, what your parents did, anything. It just
Mm.
it hits all.
It's something that is universal. That's
Yeah,
one thing that
universal, definitely.
is cool about these groups is you will see somebody from every walk of life,
Yeah.
and they're saying the exact same shit that you are. They're having the exact same struggles.
Yeah.
Who is it? Are you familiar with the comedian Mitch Hedberg?
Yes.
He was talking about, they say alcoholism is a disease, but it's the only disease you can get in trouble
Yeah.
for
Yeah. For
having.
having.
Like,
Yeah.
God damn it, you have lupus.
Yeah.
Versus, God damn it, Otto, you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
One of those sounds acceptable, one of those doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. He he was. I think he struggled a little bit too.
Oh yeah, he that's why he's dead.
Yeah.
He died young, and it was drug related.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to his some of his stuff. So I actually really like comedy. I have to try to stay up on it. Um,
I did a Halloween show a couple of years ago, and I actually went as Mitch Hedberg, and
Did you?
everybody thought that I was Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. Well, you can see the
The
resemblance.
difference is aviator sunglasses versus some big oversized shit like
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain that looked like bug eyes.
Yeah.
But I was wearing a flannel and a wig that had hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, like only one other person who was there who was also a comedian was like,
Head-
"Dude, Mitch Hedberg, nice,
Yeah.
I like it."
Yeah. Yeah. If only you can get his cadence now.
Oh, I did.
Did you?
I was hosting that show and I was like practicing my
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg impersonation. But again, like we had talked about, you can't do somebody else's jokes. So I was doing some Mitch Hedberg inspired jokes.
Yeah.
And about a minute into 10 minutes, I gave up on doing the impersonation because I just felt like, well, now I'm really trying to be,
Yeah.
especially with the wig and the hair and the glasses. I
Yeah,
was like,
you're really
I
pushing
feel
it,
like a
yeah.
charlatan. I need to knock that shit off
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. That
and
must be-
just go back into to doing jokes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved that joke. God damn it, Otto, you have lupus.
Yeah.
God damn it, Otto, you have an alcoholism. One of those you can be mad at, one of them you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, all of them you could lose your life over.
Yo,
It it's just yeah. You get around these groups
shit,
again.
alcoholism killed my dad.
Yeah.
He drank till he couldn't. And dead at 63 years old. That's young.
Yeah.
The older I get, the younger 63 sounds.
Yeah. Right around the corner.
Yeah, if that was me, I'd have 15 years left. Man,
Yeah.
I think of the wasted years. That's the bullshit. I am not going that route.
Yeah.
I am clean. I'm sober, and I'm happy for it. Do I wish that I could enjoy a beer from time to time? Absolutely. But again, if I was the kind of person who could enjoy one and not all of them, I would be able to enjoy one. But I can't
Yeah.
because I will be an asshole and I will fuck up a good job with a pension. I will lose my wife. I will ruin my life with alcohol if I don't keep it in check. And so the only way to avoid that is to I won't say her name because anonymous is anonymous. There's a woman in our group who's, I guess you'd say she's one of the more senior sobriety She's got some good numbers on her, and I just started when she was talking about you can compare alcoholism to a peanut allergy.
Yeah, that was a great. Yeah.
I that stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have just one peanut if you're allergic to peanuts because it's gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah.
You can't have just one beer because yeah, today you might just drink one, but
Yeah.
now you've just reopened that.
Yeah.
And I know my brain, and if I could reason one beer, I can reason two, and if I can reason three beers, then all reason is out the window, and I'm just gonna be a fucking mess again.
Yeah. Yeah. That was.
The only way
I.
not to win is not to play.
Yeah, that stuck with me. That I mean, there's all kinds of things, that stick. That end up sticking with you, but that and the gift of desperation, the was a big one for me. It just, I don't know. It's just nonstop, and all it is well, I wouldn't say all it is, but it's a change in attitude. For a lot of it. A lot of it's kind of cliche to say, because
Yeah.
you hear people talk about it all the time. Just you know, it's your attitude. You can control it. Whatever. It's harder than that, but um, it definitely is what am I going to allow to get into my circle, and what am I gonna keep out and not fester over, or worry about, or even just think about.
Well, see, that reminds me of something else. Anger.
Yeah.
We had touched about anger. I had some serious rage issues. Like, I was just always ready to go off on anything. I was just fucking mad all the time. Sober or drunk, I was mad all the time, and that was part of the double whammy of depression and anxiety. Those two, you put them in the shaker and you mix them up, and you've got anger over ice.
Yeah.
Is what that is. And so I was always just like,
Yeah.
just waiting for a reason to go off. And now that I'm not drunk or looking to excuse getting drunk, and I'm on medication and I'm dealing with my mental health, I'm not that angry little hedgehog anymore. I think you remember, well, back went to McDonald's and got the 2 double cheeseburger meal and fucking empty buns with cheese and pickle on. You got one job, man. Put the burger between the buns, put the buns together, wrap it up, and hand it to me. You forgot the burger.
Yeah.
That would have ruined my whole fucking day. And my wife's day, because I would not have stopped bitching about it for the whole weekend. Instead, I was like, hey, you forgot something.
Yeah.
And I was mad, but... And I guess here we are 2 months later, and I'm still bitching about it. But I'm not frothing at the mouth
Yeah.
and drinking a beer while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm a lot calmer. I almost feel more zen, even.
I do too. I feel that as well. Just I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. I don't have the words. I'm not smart enough either to be able to explain it. It's just I don't know. I just want to be one of those guys that radiates the way you're supposed to live life. The radiates that the way that I don't want to have to walk up to you and tell
Going
you.
from being a cautionary tale to
Yeah.
a good example.
Yeah,
Well,
whatever.
So I forgot to mention this in group. In the last month, I've had 2 people credit me with stop drinking.
Really?
There's a comedian in town who me and him have been a drunken mess together on more than one occasion. And it's the first time I've seen him, I would say close to a year, because I haven't been doing comedy. I've been doing music. And I went and did comedy to try it sober about a month ago. And I ran into him, and he had heard through the grapevine. Like, I haven't posted anything about sobriety on my social media because I don't really want a cookie for not being a fuck up. And also, I also
here's
don't
a
want to
cookie
have
for getting
to.
your life together.
I look forward to coming to group to
For
talking
being
about
both,
tales of sobriety and stupidity before that. What I don't want to have to do is recount it to every person on the internet, and so I just haven't brought it up. But real friends know. And so I ran into my buddy, and we spent most of the time outside of the comedy club, just bullshitting all night, having a cigarette and just shooting the shit. And I talked to him like a week later, and he said, "Hey, I didn't drink this week after talking to you, and you look fucking happy for the first time since I've known you. I I, I haven't touched beer, and so now it's been almost a month, and I'll probably talk to him tomorrow because he does the little podcast thing on Sunday
Oh
mornings.
yeah.
And last I heard, he was coming up on a month, and
Wow.
he said that he credited me that. And then I have a cousin who's 2 years older than me, and he doesn't live here. We were kind of close when we were kids, and then they moved to the beach, and he still lives in Grover Beach. But we still talk from time to time. And I think I told you about like I was doing while doing my home remodel. I've been posting like my little
Oh yeah.
projects on
Yeah.
on my story, and he's been enthralled with watching this. He has absolutely no handy skills at his disposal. So he's like, I can't believe somebody I know does this shit.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he was asking me about sobriety, and he was like, "You seem actually happy for the first time since we were kids." And he quit drinking, and
Yeah.
he was reasoning it with himself, like, "Oh, I don't have a problem because you haven't been arrested, so you don't have a drinking problem."
Right.
And last time I talked to him, he's like, "Dude, I have so much more fucking money left over at the end of the month. My kids are talking to me. My wife's not mad. How 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 are you not telling everybody about this?" I was like, "Because to tell everybody I was doing good, I have to tell everybody how fucking horrible
Yeah.
I was before, and I don't want to talk about that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably should. That's why I'm here, because it's important to say, I was being a
Yeah.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
I was making good money, and I was drinking a lot more of it than I should have. And I was being an asshole to the people who I care the most, who take care of me. And I'm not doing any of those things now.
Yeah. Well,
Like I said, I've gone from being a cautionary tale to a good example. And
yeah.
that feels good.
Yeah, it does. You've been a good example to me. I think you came in a week after I did.
Yeah, we're like 6 days, 5 days
Yeah,
apart,
something like that.
sobriety days.
Yeah. So, you know, watching you, I knew you were funny the first day you came in and you told your story. Um, and I, it just, it makes it easier when you can laugh at some of these things that we do.
Yeah,
You
if
know,
you
so-
can't laugh at it, you just go crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So,
gotta keep a touch of insanity too. You
Right.
gotta go nuts.
I appreciate, we'll get this wrapped up so we can get going, but I just want to tell you thank you for
Oh man, thanks for
helping
having
me
me.
out and helping me out in my sobriety. I mean, just you showing up all the time and being there. And you know what, man, you texted me on my 6 month, or what we thought was my 6 month, but yeah, I really appreciated that. That meant a lot to me. I didn't. Um, Again, I don't tell a lot of people. I tell people who ask about my sobriety. I'm like
Mhm.
you, but I don't want to tell everybody, what I was. I just not. I have to go through the whole story if I'm going to tell them.
Right.
But, um, I'm not shy about it either. But, you were the only one to do that, and I really, really appreciate it. I appreciated it, and it meant a lot. It meant
6
something.
months, that's a big deal, man.
Yeah, you know what? You're kind of what hyped it up for me because I didn't think much about it. And then after I got that and I started really thinking about it, and now I'm just like ecstatic. I'm pretty happy with it. It's just,
Uh, the our group, and like I think my wife would have, like, we've gone to every Village Fest since back when it was Brews in the Village, and then
Yeah.
it became Village Fest, and so this is the first time in like 22 years we weren't there,
yeah,
and that was just a couple of weeks ago. If it wasn't for the group, I would have went,
yeah,
and I would have gave myself an excuse to drink that day.
yeah,
I would have said, "Well, it's a beer fest. You gotta,
yeah,
I probably would have lied to myself and said, "Oh, I won't drink. We'll just go."
yeah,
I'm spending $125 a ticket. I'm a fucking drink. I tell you that.
yeah,
And so I had a friend who's a musician and was like, "Shit, dude, you'll carry my drums in, and I'll give you my extra ticket. You can be our roadie for the day." And I was like, if I get inside that gate, I'm gonna drink. So, hopefully next year my band can play there. But
Yeah.
this year, I'm not quite there. And one of the things that kept me from doing it was that stupid little round piece of plastic that says
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm so close. Tomorrow's my 6
Yeah.
month day.
Yeah.
And this was 2 weeks ago, and I didn't want to throw away 6 months of sobriety. Would I have been back to, fighting cops? I don't. Well, maybe on that day, because there's unlimited beer.
Yeah.
But
anything could happen.
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And again, if I was the kind of person who could just go and enjoy it one time, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair, because I wouldn't have needed help, and I wouldn't have gone into a program.
Well, it's like I said, great getting to know you, and I really appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you too, man. That's why I was like, well, shit. I was looking at the clock or the calendar, and I was like, a couple more weeks, and I know you're 5 days ahead of me. I was like, shit, I'm gonna tell Sam, congratulations on 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Not everybody needs to know that, but those of us that do know, we can track each other.
Yeah. 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 We already done the hard part of telling you what we did, so you already know. But it's all good. But yeah, man, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me over.
Thank you, Anthony. Did a good job today, I hope.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thanks, man. All right, thanks.